The buzzing of my phone jolted me awake at 3:17 a.m. Not the usual buzz of a text or call, but that distinct pattern of a security alert. In my groggy state, I almost dismissed it, but something made me look closer. The notification was from an app I'd never installed, Secure Track Alert, location data accessed. My name is Riley, and that notification was the first crack in the foundation of my perfectly ordinary life. I sat up in bed, careful not to wake Eric. He was sleeping soundly beside me, his back turned to my side as usual lately. The blue light from my phone cast strange shadows across our bedroom walls as I investigated the mysterious app. It wasn't visible on my home screen, but buried deep in my settings, I found it, Secure Track. Running quietly in the background for God knows how long. What the hell? I whispered, my fingers trembling slightly as I tapped through the unfamiliar interface. A map appeared, showing my movements from the past week, my daily drive to the high school where I teach, my Thursday coffee run with Sarah. Even my secret trip to that jewelry store where I'd been planning to buy Eric's anniversary gift. The bedroom suddenly felt too warm, too small. I slipped out of bed and padded down the hallway to the kitchen, passing Zoe's room where my 14-year-old daughter slept peacefully, unaware that her mother's world was starting to tilt on its axis. Under the harsh kitchen lights, I dug deeper into the app. There were more than just location tracks. My text messages, call logs, even my internet history had been monitored. Each discovery felt like another punch to the gut. Who would do this? Why? My hand shook as I reached for a glass of water. The house was dead quiet except for the soft hum of our refrigerator, making the whole situation feel even more surreal. I jumped when my phone buzzed again, another alert. Secure Track Alert, audio recording in progress. My blood ran cold. Audio recording? I frantically searched through the app settings until I found a folder labeled Recordings. The newest file was from 2 days ago, my conversation with Sarah at the coffee shop. I don't know, Sarah, my own voice played back through the phone speaker, tinny and distant. Eric's been different lately. Working late, always on his phone. I quickly stopped the playback, feeling sick. Someone had been listening to my private conversations. Someone had been tracking my every move. And given that this app needed physical access to install, the sound of footsteps upstairs made me freeze. They were heading toward our bedroom's in-sit bathroom, just Eric getting up to use the bathroom, like he did most nights. But for the first time in our 15 years of marriage, those familiar footsteps made my skin crawl. I quickly closed the app and deleted the alerts, my teacher's instincts kicking in. Don't show your hand too early. Gather evidence. Make a plan. My students would probably be shocked to know their Shakespeare-quoting English teacher was capable of such calculating thoughts. Back in bed, I laid awake listening to Eric's steady breathing, my mind racing. The man sleeping next to me, the father of my child, my partner of 15 years, what was he hiding that made him need to track my every move? Or was I the target of something bigger? One thing was certain, I couldn't confront him. Not yet. Not until I understood what I was dealing with. Tomorrow, I'd start digging. Tomorrow, I'd begin unraveling whatever web of secrets had been spun around my life. As I finally drifted off to sleep, my phone buzzed one last time. In my exhaustion, I almost missed it, a text from an unknown number. Be careful what you look for, Riley. Some truths are better left buried. Morning came too quickly. I'd barely slept after discovering the spyware, but I forced myself through the motions of our usual routine. The kitchen filled with the smell of coffee and toast as I packed Zoe's lunch, trying to keep my hands from shaking. Eric came downstairs in his crisp blue suit, the one he always wore for important client meetings. He barely glanced at me as he poured his coffee into his travel mug. Big meeting today? I asked, keeping my voice casual while studying his reaction. Yeah, probably won't be home for dinner. He didn't meet my eyes, focused on stirring his coffee with mechanical precision. The Morrison account needs extra attention. The Morrison account. Right. The same excuse he'd used 3 times in the past 2 weeks. I wanted to scream, to demand answers about the app on my phone, but instead, I just nodded and turned back to making Zoe's sandwich. Mom, have you seen my USB drive? Zoe bounded into the kitchen, her dark hair still wet from the shower. The blue one with all my coding projects? Check the living room, I said. You were working there last night. Zoe paused, looking between Eric and me. She'd always been perceptive, too smart for her own good sometimes. Her eyes narrowed slightly as she noticed the distance between us, the careful way we avoided touching as Eric moved past me to grab his briefcase. Dad, you promised to help me with my computer science project this weekend, she said suddenly. Remember? The one about digital privacy and security. I nearly dropped the knife I was holding. Eric's shoulders tensed visibly. Sorry, sweetheart, he said, his voice tight. Something came up at work. Maybe next weekend? Zoe's face fell, but there was something else in her expression. Suspicion, maybe? Right. Work. Again. Eric kissed her forehead quickly, then headed for the door. Love you both, he called out, but the words sounded hollow, rehearsed. After he left, Zoe turned to me. Mom, what's going on? What do you mean? I busied myself cleaning up breakfast dishes. Dad's been weird lately. And you? She hesitated. You look like you haven't slept. Plus, you're washing that same plate for the third time. I set the plate down, forcing a smile. Just work stress, honey. You know how it gets during final season. Mom, I'm 14, not 4. Zoe crossed her arms. I know something's wrong. I heard you up last night. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Another SecureTrack alert. I snatched it up before Zoe could see, but not before catching a glimpse of the message. Audio recording saved, kitchen, 7:15 a.m. I need to get to school early, I said, grabbing my purse. Teacher's meeting. Will you be okay taking the bus? Zoe's face closed off. Sure. Whatever. The drive to school was a blur. In the parking lot, I pulled out my phone and found Sarah's number. We'd been friends since college, and she worked in IT security. If anyone could help me understand what I was dealing with, it would be her. But before I could call, a new text arrived from the unknown number. Careful who you trust, Riley. Sarah might not be the friend you think she is. My blood ran cold. How did they know I was about to call Sarah? Unless... I looked around the parking lot, suddenly feeling exposed. The spyware must have access to my phone's camera too. A knock on my window made me jump. It was just Dennis from the English department, looking concerned. You okay, Riley? Meeting's about to start. Yeah, coming. I grabbed my things, mind racing. I couldn't trust my phone. Couldn't trust my husband. Maybe couldn't even trust my best friend. But worst of all, I was starting to see cracks in my relationship with Zoe, the one person I was trying to protect from all of this. As I walked into school, another text arrived. Smart girl, your daughter. Maybe she should look into that computer science project more carefully. Lots of interesting things to learn about digital privacy these days. It wasn't just a threat anymore. They were dragging my daughter into this. And that was my breaking point. I found Marcus Lee's office tucked between a laundromat and a Chinese takeout place. The private investigator's weathered face matched his worn leather chair as he reviewed the screenshots I'd taken of the spyware app. SecureTrack Pro, he said, sliding his reading glasses off. High-end stuff. Not something you'd find on the regular market. Can you trace it? He nodded slowly. Already did. Purchase was made 6 weeks ago through a shell company. But here's where it gets interesting. He turned his computer screen toward me. The buyer used your home address for billing. My stomach lurched. Eric. Thing is, Marcus continued, clicking through several documents. The shell company's been busy. Regular payments to a rental property in Oakwood Heights. Nice place. Way too expensive for a single person unless someone else is helping with the rent. The words tasted bitter in my mouth. Bingo. He pulled up a photograph that made my world tilt sideways. Eric, leaving the building with a woman I'd never seen before. She was younger than me, stunning in that effortless way that made me suddenly aware of every wrinkle around my eyes. His hand rested on the small of her back with familiar intimacy. Vanessa Reed, Marcus said quietly. Works at Eric's firm. Junior partner, fast-tracked for promotion. My phone buzzed. Another SecureTrack alert. I ignored it, focusing on the dates beneath the photos. These are from when he said he was working late on the Morrison account. There's more. Marcus hesitated. The spyware. It wasn't his idea. Based on the email trails I found, Vanessa pushed for it. She's been encouraging him to make a clean break. A clean break. My voice sounded strange, distant. From you and Zoe. He slid a folder across his desk. These are copies of everything I found, including. He tapped one document. A consultation with a divorce attorney. Last week. The fluorescent lights suddenly seemed too bright. The smell of Chinese food wafting through the wall made me nauseated. Why the spyware then? If he's planning to leave anyway? Insurance, maybe. Or control. People do strange things when they're living double lives. My phone buzzed again. This time I looked. Having fun with Marcus? Wonder what Eric would think about his wife meeting strange men in secret. I showed Marcus the message. His expression darkened. They're watching you right now. Probably through your phone's camera. He grabbed a post-it note and scribbled something. This is a burner phone number. Use it to contact me from now on. And Riley? His eyes met mine. Be careful. People who use surveillance like this. They're not playing games. Walking to my car, another text arrived. TikTok, Riley. How long before Zoe finds out her mother's sneaking around too? I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. They were trying to gaslight me, make me doubt myself, make me feel guilty for investigating their betrayal. My phone rang. Eric. Hey, his voice was casual, practiced. Just checking if you can pick up Zoe today? Meeting's running late. Meeting. Right. I wondered if Vanessa was sitting next to him right now, maybe running her fingers through his hair the way I used to. Actually, I heard myself say, I have a meeting too. With the Morrison account. The silence on the other end was deafening. The Morrison account? His voice cracked slightly. Yeah. Funny thing about that account, Eric. They closed their business 6 months ago. I started my car. But hey, enjoy your meeting. Say hi to Vanessa for me. I hung up before he could respond, my heart pounding. Through the windshield, I caught my reflection, pale, scared, but something else too. Something harder. My phone lit up with his call again. I declined it, then pulled up the SecureTrack app. 2 could play at this surveillance game. If they wanted to watch me, fine. Let them see what happens when you back a teacher into a corner. Time to pay Vanessa Reed a visit. I didn't make it to Vanessa's apartment that day. Instead, I found myself sitting in my classroom during lunch, staring at a stack of unsigned permission slips for tomorrow's field trip. When Zoe appeared in my doorway, "You missed breakfast again," she said, dropping her backpack by my desk. "And Dad didn't come home last night." I forced a smile. He texted, "Late meeting." Stop. Zoe's voice cracked. Just stop lying to me. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as we looked at each other. My daughter's face had lost its childhood softness somewhere in the past year, replaced by sharp angles and knowing eyes that saw too much. "I found something on Dad's laptop," she continued, pulling out her phone. "Remember when he asked me to help organize his work files last weekend?" My stomach dropped. Zoe. There were emails. Lots of them. To someone named Vanessa. She placed her phone on my desk, screen up. "He's planning to leave us, isn't he?" Before I could respond, a student appeared at the door. "Mrs. Thompson? Principal Warner needs to see you. He says it's urgent." In Warner's office, I found Eric waiting alongside the principal. My husband wore his courtroom smile, the one he used when he was about to destroy someone's credibility on the witness stand. "Riley," Warner began, looking uncomfortable. "Serious allegations have been made about inappropriate contact with a private investigator during school hours. And there are concerns about your emotional stability affecting your teaching performance." I felt the trap closing. Eric had beaten me to the punch, spinning the narrative his way. Of course he had. He was a lawyer. This was what he did for a living. "I'm concerned about you, honey," Eric said, his voice dripping with practiced concern. "The paranoid accusations, the secret meetings. This isn't like you. Let me help." Help? Like he'd helped by installing spyware on my phone? Like he'd helped by planning our divorce while playing happy families? "Mr. Thompson suggests taking a leave of absence," Warner added. "To sort things out." My phone buzzed. A secure track alert, probably recording this whole conversation. Recording how they were trying to paint me as unstable, paranoid, unfit to teach. Unfit to parent? I have documentation, I said quietly, of everything. Eric's smile flickered. Including the spyware you and Vanessa installed on my phone. The shell company. The apartment in Oakwood Heights. I turned to Warner. And recordings of every conversation I've had in the past 6 weeks, including with students and their parents. I wonder how the school board would feel about that level of privacy violation. Warner's face paled. Privacy violation? I'll email you the evidence, I said, standing. But right now, I need to talk to my daughter. She found your emails, Eric. The ones to Vanessa about leaving us. Eric's mask cracked. Zoe found. Yeah. So while you're trying to destroy my career to cover your tracks, our daughter is sitting in my classroom trying to understand why her father's abandoning her. I walked out, leaving them stammering behind me. In the hallway, my phone buzzed again. Not secure track this time, but a text from Marcus. Got something big. Vanessa's not who she claims to be. Meet ASAP. Back in my classroom, Zoe was still there, working on her laptop. Lines of code scrolled across her screen. What are you doing? I asked. Fighting back, she said, not looking up. Did you know most spyware has exploitable backdoors? Dad really should have researched the product better before buying it. I watched my teenage daughter's fingers fly across the keyboard, her face set in concentrated determination. She looked so much like me at that moment, not the scared, gaslit version of me from the past few weeks, but the stronger version I used to be. The version I needed to become again. Mom? Zoe finally looked up. I found something else in the app's code. Something bad. Really bad. I don't think this is just about Dad's affair anymore. My phone buzzed one final time. A new message, not from the unknown number this time, but from Vanessa herself. We need to talk. Your husband isn't the only one being blackmailed. Meet me tonight? It's not just spyware, Zoe explained, her laptop screen casting a blue glow across her face in Marcus Lee's dimly lit office. It's part of something bigger. Look at these network connections. Marcus leaned forward, squinting at the code. These IP addresses. They're routing through law firms across the state. Dad's firm isn't the only one involved, I said, remembering Vanessa's text about blackmail. How many, Zoe? 17 so far. All using the same spyware package, all connected to a central server. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. And get this, they're all handling high-profile divorce cases. Marcus whistled low. Surveillance footage, private conversations, location data. It's a goldmine for divorce settlements. My phone buzzed. Vanessa again. They're watching. Don't trust Eric. Meet me at Riverside Park, 30 minutes. It's a trap, Marcus said, reading over my shoulder. Probably. I grabbed my coat anyway. But she's scared. You didn't hear her voice in those recordings Zoe found. Mom, wait. Zoe turned her laptop toward me. Look at this email thread. Vanessa tried to back out 3 weeks ago. The next day, someone sent her this. The attachment showed Vanessa leaving a building I recognized, the women's shelter where I volunteered. She was helping a young woman inside, both looking over their shoulders. Her sister, Marcus said quietly, been hiding from an abusive ex for 6 months. Vanessa's been helping her stay off the grid. Until now. The pieces clicked into place. They're using her sister as leverage. Mom? Zoe's voice shook slightly. There's something else. Remember that college fund Dad started for me last month? My stomach dropped. What about it? The money. It's not mine. It's being funneled through shell companies, the same ones paying for the spyware. Dad's helping them launder money. The room spun slightly. Eric wasn't just having an affair or spying on me. He was part of something much darker, something that could destroy not just our marriage, but his career, his freedom, everything. My phone buzzed again. A video this time, showing Zoe walking home from school yesterday. The message below it was simple. Back off or she's next. They're bluffing, Marcus started, but I was already heading for the door. Mom, stop. Zoe called after me. We need a plan. I have one. I turned back, seeing my daughter's worried face, so much older than her 14 years. I'm ending this. Tonight. Not alone you're not. Zoe grabbed her laptop. I can hack their network, shut down the spyware remotely. Give you a window. Absolutely not. It's too dangerous. More dangerous than you meeting Vanessa alone? She stood her ground, chin raised defiantly. They're already threatening me. At least let me fight back. Marcus cleared his throat. Kid's right. You need backup. I've got a friend in the FBI's cybercrime division. One call. No. I thought of Vanessa's sister, of all the other people being blackmailed. Not yet. If we spook them, people could get hurt. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with first. My phone buzzed one final time. A photo of Eric entering a building I didn't recognize, followed by TikTok. Your husband's about to make a deal that can't be undone. Choose wisely. I looked at my daughter, this brilliant, brave girl who refused to be a victim. At Marcus, who'd become more than just an investigator. My allies in this mess. Okay, I said finally. Here's what we're going to do. Zoe, you and Marcus work on accessing their network. But you stay here, where it's safe. I'll meet Vanessa, find out what she knows. And then? Marcus asked. I thought of all the lies, the manipulation, the threats against my daughter. And then we burn it all down. Every last bit of it. As I left the office, I heard Zoe's fingers already flying across her keyboard, and I smiled grimly. They thought they could threaten a mother's child? They were about to learn exactly how dangerous that could be. Riverside Park was deserted when I arrived, except for Vanessa sitting alone on a bench near the water. She looked different from the photos Marcus had shown me, smaller somehow, more fragile. They're watching, she said without looking at me. But Zoe's program worked. We have about 10 minutes before the spyware comes back online. I sat beside her, keeping my distance. Tell me about my husband's deal. It's not just Eric. Her hands trembled as she pulled out a USB drive. The firm's been running this scheme for years. They install spyware on their own clients' devices, gather dirt on both parties in divorces, then use it to manipulate settlements. The money laundering is just a bonus. My phone buzzed. A text from Zoe. Mom, something's wrong. Dad's not at the office. He's. The message cut off as a familiar voice spoke behind us. I really wished you'd stayed out of this, Riley. Eric stepped out of the shadows, and he wasn't alone. Two men in suits flanked him, their expressions cold and professional. The thing is, Eric continued, moving closer, you were never supposed to find the spyware. That was Vanessa's mistake. He shot her a disappointed look. She got sloppy. Like you got sloppy with the college fund? I stood, positioning myself between him and Vanessa. Money laundering through our daughter's account? That's low, even for you. It's called protecting our future. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Everything I did was for us. The firm's offering me partner, Riley. Real power. All I had to do was prove my loyalty. By spying on your own family? By showing I understand how the game is played. He gestured to the men beside him. Now we can handle this quietly. The firm's prepared to be generous. A clean divorce, full custody of Zoe, a comfortable settlement. All you have to do is walk away. My phone vibrated again. A single message from Marcus, FBI en route. Stall him. And if I don't walk away? Eric's face hardened. Then things get complicated. For everyone. He pulled out his phone, showing me a live feed of the women's shelter, including Vanessa's sister, and maybe even that bright future Zoe has in computer science. Would be a shame if she got caught hacking corporate servers. You'd threaten your own daughter? The words tasted like ash. I'm protecting her, teaching her how the world really works. He stepped closer, voice softening. Come on, Riley. Take the deal. We can all walk away from this. Behind me, Vanessa made a small, broken sound. I thought of her sister, of all the other families torn apart by this scheme. Of Zoe, watching her father reveal his true nature. You're right about one thing, I said quietly. This ends tonight. I pulled out my own phone, turning it toward him. On the screen, a live stream played, Eric's entire confession, broadcasting directly to Marcus's FBI contact and backed up to secure servers. Eric's face went white. You didn't come alone? I finished. Neither did you. Flashlights suddenly illuminated the park as FBI agents emerged from the darkness. Eric's professional friends disappeared like smoke, leaving him standing alone as agents converged. Riley, please, he begged, all pretense gone. Everything I did was for us. For Zoe. No. I watched as agents cuffed him. Everything you did was for yourself. My phone buzzed one final time. An unknown number. This isn't over. The firm protects its own. I looked at Eric being led away, at Vanessa crying with relief as agents assured her about her sister's safety, at the life I'd built crumbling around me. They were right. It wasn't over. The firm would retaliate. My career might be finished. Our savings were probably gone. And somewhere in Marcus's office, my teenage daughter had just watched her father choose power over family. But standing there in the dark, watching Eric's world collapse, I realized something important. Sometimes you have to burn everything down to see what's worth saving from the ashes. My phone buzzed again. Zoe, Mom, you okay? No, I wasn't okay. But for the first time in weeks, I knew exactly what I was fighting for. The holding cell at the federal building wasn't what I expected. Eric sat there in his expensive suit, somehow looking both powerful and pathetic under the fluorescent lights. 2 FBI agents stood outside, but they'd given us privacy for this conversation. You could have taken the deal, he said quietly. We could have kept our family. Our family. I placed the USB drive Vanessa had given me on the table between us. Let's talk about family, Eric. Let's talk about the 23 other families your firm destroyed this year alone. His jaw tightened. You don't understand how things work in my world. I understand perfectly. I slid printouts across the table, bank statements, emails, surveillance logs. You chose power over people, money over morality. And now you're choosing your firm over your daughter. Leave Zoe out of this. You brought her into this when you used her college fund to launder money. My voice stayed steady, even as my hands shook. When you threatened her future to protect your scheme. A knock at the door made us both jump. Zoe stood there, Marcus right behind her. I hadn't expected her to come, had tried to protect her from this moment. But the determined look in her eyes reminded me so much of myself. I want to talk to him, she said. Eric's face crumpled. Sweetheart. Don't. Zoe sat beside me, her laptop open. I found something in the spyware code. Something Mom doesn't know about yet. My heart stopped. Eric's face went pale. The program wasn't just recording conversations, Zoe continued, her voice trembling slightly. It was fabricating them, creating fake evidence to use against your client's spouses. And Mom? They were building a case against you too. She turned the laptop toward us. Audio files filled the screen, doctored conversations, manipulated photos, a complete fabricated history of inappropriate behavior with students. Insurance, Eric whispered. In case you ever discovered. In case I ever threaten your precious firm? The rage I'd been containing finally boiled over. You were going to destroy my career, take Zoe away from me? The firm required leverage on everyone involved. Even me. He reached for Zoe's hand, but she pulled away. I never wanted to use it. But you would have, Zoe said. Just like you used Vanessa's sister against her. Just like you're using everyone. A commotion outside drew our attention. Through the window, I saw Vanessa being led in by more agents, her face tear-streaked but determined. Behind her came a parade of suited men, senior partners from the firm, their facades of power crumbling as federal agents escorted them in. They're all turning on each other, Marcus said from the doorway. The whole house of cards is coming down. Eric stood abruptly, desperation in his eyes. Riley, please. I can still fix this. The firm has connections, resources. Stop. Zoe's voice cut through his pleading. Just stop lying. Mom found the spyware, but I found the truth. And I'm the one who cracked their encryption. Me. Your daughter. The one you were ready to sacrifice. She stood, gathering her laptop. I used to think you were the smartest person I knew. Now I realize you're just another bully who thought he could control everyone through their secrets. She turned to me. Can we go home now, Mom? Eric reached for her again. Zoe, everything I did was for yourself, she finished. Mom protected me. You just protected your power. As we turned to leave, Eric called out one last time. What happens now? I looked at my daughter, this amazing person who'd grown stronger through all this pain. At Marcus, who'd become a true friend. Even at Vanessa through the window, who'd finally chosen truth over fear. Now, I met Eric's eyes one last time. Now we rebuild. Without you. Walking out, Zoe slipped her hand into mine. Behind us, Eric's world continued to unravel, but ahead of us stretched something new, a future built on truth instead of secrets, strength instead of power, love instead of control. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from the school board, position secure. Evidence of firm's manipulation clear. When can you return to teaching? I smiled, squeezing Zoe's hand. We had a lot of healing ahead, but for the first time in months, the path forward was clear. 6 months later, I stood in our new apartment, watching Zoe set up her computer station in what used to be our dining room. The space was smaller than our old house, but somehow it felt more like home. Mom, Zoe called out, excitement in her voice. The cybersecurity program accepted me for their summer workshop. I moved to look at her acceptance email, remembering how different things had been half a year ago. The trial was still ongoing, but Eric had pleaded guilty to reduced charges in exchange for testimony against the firm. The scandal had rocked the legal community, exposing similar schemes at law firms across the state. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. Coffee tomorrow? Sarah's coming too. We need your input on the shelter's new security system. That had been unexpected, how Vanessa had transformed from perceived enemy to ally. After everything settled, she'd thrown herself into helping other women escape controlling relationships, using her insider knowledge of surveillance tactics to strengthen the shelter's protection protocols. Think fast. Zoe tossed me a small package. Inside was a USB drive shaped like a key. It's clean, she added with a grin. I checked. We could joke about it now, but those weeks of discovering the spyware had changed us both. Zoe had channeled her pain into purpose, becoming the youngest intern at Marcus's new cybersecurity consulting firm. And I, Professor Thompson? A student's voice called from my laptop. Right. Office hours. Even through video chat, teaching felt different now. Better somehow. More real. Just a minute, I called back, then turned to Zoe. Dinner at 7? Sarah's bringing that pasta you like. Can't. Meeting Marcus and his FBI friend about the workshop curriculum. She paused, then added softly, Dad's sentencing is next week. The air thickened slightly. We'd both received letters from Eric, apologies, explanations, promises to do better. They sat unopened in my desk drawer. Some bridges, once burned, shouldn't be rebuilt. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number. You thought you won, but power always protects its own. I showed it to Zoe, who was already typing. Traced it. Just another angry ex-partner from the firm. Want me to forward it to Marcus? No. I deleted the message. Some people never learn that real power isn't about control. The doorbell rang. Sarah, early for our prep session. We were presenting at next month's educational conference about digital privacy in schools. Turns out my experience had value beyond just survival. Coming. I called out, but Zoe was already opening the door. She and Sarah had grown close, bonding over coding and their shared love of terrible science fiction movies. Hey, warrior women, Sarah said, dropping bags of takeout on the counter. Ready to change the world? I looked around our new home, at Zoe's workspace where she helped others protect their privacy, at the conference materials spread across my desk, at the friendship that had grown between Sarah and Vanessa as they worked to strengthen the shelter's security. You know what's funny? I said, grabbing plates. When this all started, I thought it was about revenge. About making Eric pay for betraying us. But it wasn't, Zoe finished, setting up her laptop. It was about choosing who we wanted to be after the betrayal. Sarah raised an eyebrow. When did you get so wise, kid? When my mom showed me that strength isn't about having power over others. Zoe smiled at me. It's about helping others find their power. My phone buzzed one last time. Marcus, got that teaching position approved. You start the cybersecurity awareness program next semester. Zoe's curriculum suggestions were brilliant. I looked at my daughter, this amazing person who'd grown not despite our challenges, but because of how we'd faced them together. At Sarah, who'd become more than just a friend. At the life we'd built from the ashes of betrayal. Some scars never fully heal, but they remind us of our strength. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies, it's about building something better from the ruins they left behind. All right, I said, opening the takeout. Let's change the world.